It's time to look at a Blazer mid, and what a Blazer mid it is absolutely beautiful. But there are some questions about it, some mysteries in there. For example, what did they do on this shoe to keep your eyes off of that upper? The upper is the main feature on the shoe, but they've done something to take your eyes away from that so that you're not focusing in on that. And there's something special in that to look at today. So what is that? Let's have a look today. And then there's that upper itself made of that recycled material, but the other half of it is white. Now on the Sneaker News website, it said that it's white in speech marks, and the question is just how white is that? Is there a reason for those speech marks from the Sneaker News website? Is there something wrong with the white on these guys? So we'll be checking that out, and we'll also be taking a look at this. Now this is a Blazer mid, but on the green screen it sure doesn't look like it. It must look like something weird. Now I hope the green screen isn't working and what you're seeing is a sort of look through the shoe to the green screen, but the question we're asking is what will happen when I put this in front of my face? Do you think you'll be able to see me through the shoe? Who knows? Let's find out in this today's video as we take a look at the upcoming release of the Nike Blazer Mid 77 recycled jerseys. This is the Tokyo Butter 23 Sneaker Channel. Tokyo Butter 23 Sneaker Channel です。毎日アップするので、毎日見てください. And every single day from Tokyo, Japan, I bring you content about upcoming sneaker releases, sneaker news, and sneaker reviews. And today, what's in the spotlight is a Blazer mid. Now, I already kind of showed you this shoe, but I'll go on then. I'll try and put it up again. It's supposed to be yellow through here, but I think what you'll be seeing is looking through it to the green screen. It doesn't make much sense to me that a yellow shoe doesn't work on the green screen. What would be even more embarrassing is if it does work and you can actually see the shoe and it doesn't look through it. Because then this whole part of the video has no point whatsoever. But we're still going to try. We're still going to give it a shot. The last time I pulled these guys out was a Blazer mid. Maybe a week or so ago. I can't remember which one it was. There was some special feature on it. But when I looked back at the video of it and I was talking about this shoe, it was completely see-through on the yellow parts. But you know, these things happen. So question number one, well, I think it was question number three, but we'll take that question first, is what's going to happen if I put this in front of my face? Do you think you're going to be able to see my face through the shoe? Let's find out what happens when you put something that doesn't work on the green screen in front of the person who's talking. Now, I have absolutely no idea what effect that's going to have. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Maybe it just looks really ridiculous. But whatever it is, hopefully it's fun for you guys out there at home. And it answers that question, what happens on the green screen when you put something in front of your face? So enough about that. Let's park that and then get into the shoe today. There were two more questions at the top of the shoe, the top of the video. One was about how white the white is on these shoes, and the other one was about how they use something, a feature on this shoe to keep your eyes away from the upper. We'll start with that second question because it's kind of important. This is the recycled jerseys Blazer mid. Now, there has been a bunch of recycled stuff going on at Nike and in the sneaker world in general over the last, I don't know, 12 to 18 months or so. And it's really been ramped up by the pandemic, because the pandemic has stopped people going shopping and into actual stores and moved people online. People who maybe wouldn't have been comfortable doing online shopping were forced into it, found out they liked it, and now that's their primary way of shopping. So brands like Nike, you know, big stores are having to change very quickly to meet this new style of shopping. They were on this sort of like move to digital. It was like this, and then all of a sudden it goes like that. Now, when you move to digital, that means that you're using a lot fewer resources, less lights in your stores, less bricks to make them, you know, less, I don't know, fibers in the uniforms of the people that work in stores. You know, all the resources are lowered, so you're automatically moving to zero. So Nike have sort of ramped up their move to zero vibe in line with that pandemic in force. So it's not really, sorry Nike, but it's not really Nike that are pushing it this fast. They already were on that trajectory, but it's the pandemic that's pushed it into overdrive. And the result of that is shoes like this. And this is part of at least a 3-pack. I think there's an Air Max, is it 1 or a 90 in there? And then there's another shoe, I think it's an Air Force 1, and then these guys as well, part of a sort of pack or a set of recycled jerseys. And it's all about the recycled recycled materials that are used to make that upper on there. And if we zoom in on that upper, what you'll be able to see is it's not just grey, but it's very laced with many different colours. Often red sort of comes to the fore in this. Because they're recycled materials, there's an awful lot of colours that are mixed up in there and in the thread and in the weave of the shoe. And then when you look closely at it, you see more than just that grey that they want you to see. There's a bit more in there as well. So that's the story of the recycle. It's more than just recycling materials though. I thought it was just about recycling rubbers, recycling materials, the crater foam, for example, which we'll get to in a minute because I've got a big question about that, whether it's there or not, and stuff like that. I thought it was all about recycling, but it turns out the move to zero is also about the move to no waste. They're trying to get to a no waste scenario and a zero carbon scenario as well, which is, I don't think companies can get to zero carbon, but I think they can offset it by somehow reducing or increasing something, I don't know, planting some trees to chew up carbon dioxide emissions or something like that, but getting to a net zero on their carbon, but also no waste and getting that recycled element into their shoes. So this is part of that story and part of that narrative. It started back in the summer with the space hippies. That was a really big push into the recycled material world. And then there were also some other shoes. I think there was a recycled canvas pack. That's what it is. It's been in there around about the autumn, and now we come along into the winter with these recycled jerseys packs as well. So so that's the story of that upper. And the question I asked at the start of this video was all about how they distract you from that, how they're trying to stop you looking at that, because that's, if you focus too much on that, it looks a little bit dirty and a little bit grimy. So they don't really want you just to focus in on the recycle. They want you to focus in on the whole shoe and not just be consumed by that grey bit. So there's two ways that they do that. One is the hits of red throughout the shoe. So we'll take a couple of looks at that. And I think what I'll do is I'll start low and go high, because when we finish high, we get to a unique point in the shoe. So starting low with the swoosh and that standard BLAZER swoosh on the side in white, but what isn't standard is all around the edge the oversized red stitching on there, and it's that red that is taking our eyes away from the grey and away from the recycled element and towards other parts of the shoe. And there are three places where you've got the red on there, the stitching around the swoosh being the first, and if we travel up from that and get to the top of the lacing system, you can see the top two eyelets are also bordered around in red, and if you look at the other eyelets down the shoe, you can see they are not, and it's just those top two with the red, which balances with that swoosh and the stitching below. And then right beside that you get to the tongue branding, and again here you've got a splash of red, this time with the word Nike. So not horizontally, vertically through the shoe, you've got from tongue through the eyelets and then down to the swoosh, you've got these hits of red that kind of distract you from that grey. And I think that's their purpose. Their purpose is to give you something else to look at. And if you imagine what the shoe would have looked like if, say, the stitching had been white, the eyelets at the top had been white like all the rest, and then at the top maybe black instead of red, and the Nike branding up there, which would have had no interest to anyone whatsoever, so people would have been super focused on that upper. And then the other way that they distract us from looking at that upper is by having an awful lot of white on the shoe. Usually BLAZERs, they mix up their colours a little bit and put in some sail, for example, or a gum sole on the outsole of the shoe to sort of give it a bit of definition. But all those hits where they could go with colour are all very, very white. And that's the second question that we need to get into, which is the one about just how white the white is on these shoes. But before we do that, since we got all the way up to the top of the tongues where you've got that hit of red Nike branding there, you can see also beside it a very powerful popping green swoosh at the top of this shoe. It's kind of bright luminescent, kind of highlighter pen green, if you know what I'm saying, which kind of fades into the white a little bit. The red stands in contrast to the white, but the green is sort of faded in there because of its brightness. But what's interesting is you've got that up the top on the tongues, and if you come all the way down to the midsole, round about the quarter line area, you can see that swoosh repeated on there, which is very unique. You don't usually see a swoosh on the midsole of BLAZERs, so a nice little touch there. And then between all of that, you've got all that white, lots of white, the lacing system, the tongues, the laces, the toe, the midsole, and even the mudguard coming up from the side, all in white, and the swoosh too. And I'll choose somewhere to zoom in, probably the swoosh, to look at it, and all I can see is white. I don't know why Sneaker News said white as if this was something other than white, like soft cream or sail or something like that. To me, it's just pure white. I don't see anything other than white. So if I'm missing something on that, let me know in the comments down below and tell me what's going on, because to me, all I see is white. So that question I asked at the top of the video, just how white is the white on this shoe? It's white as far as I'm concerned. And then that brings us to the last part of the shoe. Actually, there's two things to look at. Let's go around to the heel first. I was going to go to the outsole. Let's go to the heel first because there's some nice branding on the back there. But it's kind of a bridge between the hard, bright colours of the reds and the greens, for example, up in the tongue, and then the soft, kind of washed out colours of that recycled upper on there. And what I'm talking about is at the top of the heel, you've got that large branding panel on there, and it's a kind of pastel red instead of being that hard red that's featured on the lateral side of the shoe and up on the tongues. It's a sort of pastel red, and housed in that is the Nike branding in green. And again, it's a slightly faded green when you compare it to that hot green that you get at the top of the tongues and on the midsole. So, and then below that, you've got the panel that sort of holds the two sides of the shoe together. And I'm not sure if it's suede or if it's flannel or if it's like a roughed up, felt or something like that. But it's definitely a different material to the rest of the upper. It's got a real kind of hairy feel about it. Probably smooth, probably soft, probably nice to the touch. And then the final thing is to go to the outsole. Usually when you have the crater foam outsoles made of recycled outsoles of other shoes or cut-offs of other shoes, you can see very clearly a lot of that recycled rubber sort of housed in the outsole. But in the case of these guys, you have to zoom really in tight to get any speckled effect, which makes me wonder just what percentage crater foam has gone into these shoes to make that outsole, and how much recycling they've done down below on the bottom half of the shoe. And then that's it. That's the whole shoe, top to bottom, front to back, inside out. Beautiful looking shoe. Like to do my blazer mids, like to be able to get out the Sakai's. I'm thinking of selling these guys. They're a half centimetre too small for me. And I'm thinking about doing a video about trying to sell them at a shop called Kickslab here in Tokyo, Japan. We'll see how that goes. I've never tried to sell a pair of shoes anywhere before. And I've got an extra pair of Bred 4s that I might try and sell on StockX and make a video about that too. I've never done either. So let's just see how that works out, shall we? But for now, time for me to sign off. Thank you guys for checking out the content. And what I'll do is I'll do the same thing that I do at the end of every single video, which is remind you that I do this every single day. So that means that you are guaranteed to see me tomorrow.